Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So you will notice that I am speaking only on specific items of these 64 items of devotional principles. The rest are all, you could say, quite clear in its own, explanation from the text itself. Srila Prabhupada maintains that one should not be a devotee of the demigods, but at the same time, one should respect the demigods. One time in Madras, or Chennai, as it is known today, Srila Prabhupada was invited by one wealthy man who had made a temple in his home, and the main deity in his altar in the temple in his home was of Lord Shiva. Srila Prabhupada and the other invited dignitaries, they entered the deity room, but there wasn't a room for the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, in the room because it was a little small, the deity room. So the disciples just waited outside the door and watched from there. The wealthy man, he distributed flowers to all the dignitaries to offer to Lord Shiva. So the disciples were watching carefully to see what Srila Prabhupada did. And when everyone offered flowers to Lord Shiva, then Srila Prabhupada offered his flowers in one corner. And later when the dignitaries came out of the deity room, and there was room for the devotees to go in, the devotees looked at the corner and saw a deity of Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada had offered his flowers to Krishna. Now, another type of approach would actually be that the demigods are actually devotees of Krishna. And in many Vishnu temples in India, they have deities of Lord Shiva and others also in Vishnu temples. And they also offer the Mahaprasad of Lord Vishnu to the deity of Lord Shiva. Because, the demigods and Lord Shiva are pleased to get Vishnu Prasad and also hear the holy name of Krishna. If, as some of you have been to Nandagram, you will know that after they offer, Bhoga to Krishna and Balaram and other deities and on the altar in Nandagram in Vraj Mandala, then some of that Mahaprasad they also offer to a Shaligram Shila, at least rather a Shiva Shila, which is just at the entrance of that temple. There is a pastime in this regard to that Sadashiva, he comes with his matted locks and some expansions of Sankarshan known as serpents or snakes around his neck, and so forth, and his body full of ashes and like that. So one time Sadashiva came to get the darshan of Krishna at Nandagram. So Mother Yasoda, when he made his presence felt and knocked at the door, Mother Yasoda, as soon as she opened the door, out of parental love and affection, like Vatsalya Bhav, she didn't really uh, want him to come inside and see Krishna, because Krishna may be very scared of such a person. See? Because she always likes to protect Krishna from any anxiety and distress, and also being exposed to like personalities that don't look very normal and ordinary in that way. So she said, no, you don't need to see him. He's a young, small boy, and it's not appropriate for him to see him. Of course, it is within the Leela Shakti or pastime potency. So Sadashiva, he waited nearby, and he just meditated on getting the darshan of Krishna. In the meantime, when Mother Yasoda went back into the rooms, in the house of Nanda Maharaj, then Krishna, for no reason apparently, started crying and crying, and uncontrollably. He was throwing tantrums, he was rolling on the floor, and Mother Yasoda just could not, bring him up to the point of being sober. So one of the servants, assistants of Mother Yasoda, she's also acts like a nurse, to Krishna. So she came to Mother Yasoda and she said, did anyone come or anything happened? Like, if you went to the door or something, anything happened or anyone come? So Mother Yasoda explained, she saw this person, he was very uncapped, matted locks. And when she saw like these sort of snakes, which is actually expansion of Shankarshan, who was the Easter devil Lord Shiva, Sadashiva. And she thought that this will scare Krishna. So then the nurse or the assistant said that, no, he's probably a great saintly person. We should send somebody to look for him, because maybe that is why Krishna is putting on such a drama, so to speak. So some of the other assistant men of Nanda Maharaj, they found him. They found Sadashiva, and they brought him back to the door. See? And Mother Yasoda said, you cannot come in. You stand at the door. Because like there's no snakes in the house or something. So Mother Yasoda said, to Krishna, come. Some guest has come and he wants to see you. See? So then Krishna says, oh, where are you taking me? I mean, the guest has come, and he wants to see me. Why is he not in the house? Why is he not in the home? So Mother said, no. It's a special guest. He really wants to stand at the door and see you, like that. So then, excuse me. So then Krishna came to the door, and he was about to go outside, and Lord Shiva was in ecstasy. Sadashiva was in ecstasy, and he was like dancing his, the Tandava Nitra, not like for destruction, but he was like in ecstasy, and he was in jubilation, and he was singing and and so forth, like so. So he didn't really speak to Krishna. Krishna was just there, and he was so happy, so happy. So Krishna knew that Mother Yasoda to fulfill her desire and to keep her bhav or vatsalya ras, so to speak. That she's protective over me. Krishna feels like that. So Krishna said, can you request him to stay nearby? Because he is an exalted person. And it will be good for us here. Good for us here. So Mother Yasoda also asked Krishna, give me one good reason. And Krishna sort of said, no snakes and unwanted things will come into Nanda Bhavan, because he is the controller of them. And you can see, how he controls them, even one is around his neck. So we should not have any fear of this. And if I go and play outside, in the courtyard and so forth here, you should not have any. Then mother said, oh yeah, that's very good. That's very good. Very good reason. Let him stay not nearby, but let him stay very near, very near, very near. So when we visit Nandagram today also, you'll see it's like a shaligram or a Shiva, lingam, so to speak, which is not exactly a Shiva lingam in sense of being in Braj, because Shiva lingam is outside of Braj in that sense, between the spiritual and material worlds, but in a sense to represent Sada Shiva. So whenever they offer prasadam, bhoga to Krishna and Balaram, even today the pujaris there, they take the remnants, the first remnants of the bhoga that becomes prasadam, they offer to Sadashiva in the form of the Shiva lingam or that shaligram. So when I go there, that's the first Maha Prasadam I look for. In other words, I'll ask the pujari, you'll have, through the devotees who translates in the local language, that you offered the prasad to, Krishna, and now that the bhoga then became prasad, and that prasad you offered to Lord Shiva would partake. Where's that prasad that's now become Maha Prasad? I want that. Because he's a devotee. He's a devotee. He's Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. So that's another way of looking at one of the demigods. At the same time, Lord Shiva is not a demigod, which is another class in itself. Then we come further to, I just want to do a preamble of some discussion about Purnamasi. So Purnamasi, he's a Brahmani. And the Brahmani means it's like a sort of a feminine gender of a Brahmana. So Purnamasi is not like an elderly gopi, but she's the elder in the whole of Braj. And because of that, she's very wise, and everyone respects her advice and also instructions. In other words, Purnamasi is like the scripture for everybody. Whatever she says, although there's no scripture that she comes from and knows, but whatever she says, everyone follows. She's like the elder. And Nanda Maharaj himself, the king of the cowherds, Mother Yasoda, Vrishabhanu Maharaj, Krishna himself, Srimati Radharani, everyone honors Mother Purnamasi as well as honors Purnamasi's advice and wisdom for everyone. Like even if somebody wants, one Gopa wants to have to marry one Gopi, they'll first go and consult with Purnamasi, is this match okay? And so forth. She's this type of person. She's like the elder in the Braj family. Yeah. Now, it is amazing that her son, his name is Sandipani Muni. And Sandipani Muni in Avantipur actually took the role of Lord Krishna's guru in Gurukul. And that's her son. And her grandson, which is Sandipani Muni's son, his name is Madhumangal. Now we all heard of Madhumangal. He's like a very naughty, cheeky, stubborn Brahmin boy. But he lives with his grandmother in Braj, you know, with his grandmother in Braj, with Purnamasi. So sometimes Prabhupada used to say that that's Krishna's funny Brahmin friend. And and in this way, Purnamasi with her grandson Madhumangal from her son, Sandipani Muni, she's always making arrangements for the happiness of Radha and Krishna. So once, Sadashiva, he also, like Lakshmi, a few days ago we discussed, he also wanted to actually see the rasa dance. Not so much participate. So he also performed many austerities and penances. And then Purnamasi was also the incarnation in a personal form of Yogamaya. In Vrindavan, blessed Sadashiva with a suitable body to go to the Rasa Leela in a form of a gopi. In the sense like a very young girl. So he, or rather she, Sadashiva in the form of a gopi, came to the arena of the rasa dance. And at that time, before Krishna could come to the rasa stali, it's called, the other gopis came a little earlier. They don't want to be late. And even for the beginning, they don't want to be late. So some gopis that came early, they were like sort of, trying to feel some, you could say, some looking forward to, give Krishna enjoyment in the rasa dance, some ecstasy, like Baba, ecstasy, as usual. But for some reason, before the rasa lila dance could start, these gopis, they felt like, not much, happiness in entering into this rasa lila. So then they found this new gopi whom they never saw before. So they approached her, which is he, Sadashiva in gopi form, and then they asked, we haven't seen you before, but still, my name is so-and-so, and I come from this family, and so forth. And also, my husband's name is this, okay, and so forth. And I have so many children. So then they asked, what is your name? So, that gopi, Sadashiva, couldn't answer. Okay, maybe you're a little shy to speak. But anyway, tell us, who is your husband? Still no answer. Okay, which part of Braj you come from? Where is your home? Okay, and what is the name of your father-in-law? And who is your mother-in-law? And when were you married? Things like that. And which is your husband's name? That's what he said in the beginning also. So Sadashiva as a gopi couldn't answer. See? And the difficulty for him at that time in the form of a gopi was that Purnamasi never told Sadashiva that the other gopis, may get upset and they may say that she's not really qualified to be here. And she's trying to enter this Rasa Leela, without any qualification. So then the other gopis, because they could not feel that same beginning ecstasy, they sort of started to like mildly beat her, go away, beat her like that. And immediately, Sadashiva in the form of the gopi called out, Purnamasi, Purnamasi. And Purnamasi came and she said to the other gopis, don't do that. don't chastise her, don't beat her, please. She's come from a long distance from a place called Kailash. And she performed many, many austerities. So don't beat her. And then Purnamasi said, okay, I know now that she may not be qualified to enter the rasa dance, but at least, you please be merciful and let us stay a little distance from the rasa dance or rasa stali and let us see. It doesn't matter if she doesn't participate, but let us see. See? And also Purnamasi said, I am giving her the special service to see that because she is not unqualified to enter the rasa dance, but she can be now qualified to witness the rasa dance. So that one mercy I'm giving her. And then Purnamasi gave some other special mercy to Sadashiva in the form of a gopi and said that persons who are not qualified, you should not allow into this rasa dance or to Braj. See? But if you want to make them qualified, then you can give them your mercy and then they can enter. Just as you have experienced that you are not qualified. But now you're qualified to give others mercy to become qualified, to observe and witness the rasa dance but not be participating. So that gopi, a name became Gopeshwari. See? So when that gopi sort of transformed herself again into the form of Sadashiva, then his name became Gopeshwar Shiva or Gopeshwar Mahadev. That. So there is a beautiful place near the same place of the Rasastali, which is called Vamsivat, which is not far from our Krishna Balaram temple. You can go there today. Because Krishna plays the flute on Sarat Purnima at Vamsivat. It's the first day of Kartik. And everyone came there, which is like a Rasastali. So near Vamsivat, where there's a temple of Gopeshwara Shiva or Gopeshwara Mahadev. And he's there residing eternally in the form of the Shiva Lingam. In the evening, around about 5 o'clock, depends whether it's summer or winter, the pujaris address this Shiva Lingam, very beautiful. It's the Shiva Lingam very beautifully in a sari, in a sari with a crown and like other ornaments and the Shiva Lingam of Sadashiva assumes that Gopeshwari form, from being Gopeshwara Mahadeva, Gopeshwara Shiva to Gopeshwari form. So in the whole of Braj, there are 5 especially merciful personalities. Do you know them, or I'll just say them? Okay. Yamuna, Govardhan, Gopeshwara Mahadev, Vrinda Devi, and our Purnamasi. All these personalities, if you pray to them, you can enter into Braja Bhakti, or Braja Lila, to enter into Braja Bhakti. So that's something a little bit about the demigods. Now, I'll just go a little further about that. The Paribhasa Sutra, or the main verse that governs all of the verses in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Nectar devotion is Anya Belasita Sunyam, Jnana Karma Adi Anavritam, Anukulyana Krishna Anusilanam, Bhakti Uttama. So Krishna Anusilanam, that whatever is favorable, Anukulyana, in activity or cultivation, to Krishna consciousness, one should accept. So we know that generally people approach demigods for material gain, which is not an item or principle of devotional service. In fact, it may be like unfavorable for bhakti or devotional service. However, if one does approach a demigod, for Krishna consciousness, and if approaching the demigod is done in like an approved way, in other words, a bona fide way, then we can do so because we are connecting the demigods, in relationship to Krishna and not independently from Vishnu or Krishna. So that may be accepted at times. That may be accepted at times. So there's one particular example in relation to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi. And in Varanasi, there's a beautiful deity, which is technically called a demigod temple, but there's a beautiful deity called Vishveshvara. In other words, Vishveshvara is another name for Lord Shiva at Varanasi. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited this temple of Vishveshvara or Lord Shiva at Varanasi. We see here that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited this deity because it is the predominating deity in the entire Varanasi, which is actually the seat or headquarters of the Mayavad sannyasis in the whole of India. So because generally Mayavadi sannyasis are worshippers of Lord Shiva, and also they live in Varanasi. But how is it that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is like in the part of a Vaishnav sannyasi, also visited this Vishveshvara temple? And Srila Prabhupada said that the answer is that a Vaishnav does not behave impudently towards the demigods, respects the demigods rather, not being antagonistic or inimical towards them. So a Vaishnav, Prabhupada said, gives proper respect to all, although the Vaishnav may never accept a demigod to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Now, in the Brahma Samhita, there are mantras that offer obeisances to Lord Shiva, even to Lord Brahma, even to Surya, the sun god, or even to Lord Ganesh, including Lord Vishnu. So in other words, devotees can also worship all these demigods, but only on the principles of Brahma Samhita, which is recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So for example, Lord Brahma, he also glorifies the demigods in relationship to Krishna. Like that beautiful verse, Shri Siti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Eka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibhati Durga Icha Nurupam Api Yasya Cha Chestate Sa. Not forgetting that they're not independent. Govindamadi Purusham Atamaham Bhajami. So what does this mean? That this external potency Maya, and who is like of the nature of the shadow of the internal or chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, who is creating, preserving, and the destroying agency of this material or mundane world. But Lord Brahma says in relation to that I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will this particular Durga and other demigods conducts herself, or demigodesses conducts themselves. So you find that the demigods only act in accordance with the will of Krishna. So in that way, we could, connect them and respect them in relationship to Krishna. So it is very important that we appreciate the demigods and demigodesses as servants of Krishna. And in this way, we can recite these appropriate verses from Brahma Samhita, which connects them to Govinda Maripurusham, Tamaham Bhajami. And also to note that, Lord Brahma is the head of our disciplic succession. And Lord Shiva is the head of another disciplic succession, the Shiva Sampradaya. And then Lakshmi is also another head of the disciplic succession. And the four Kumaras are another head of the disciplic. So in that way, we listen to the instructions and worship them as gurus, as members of our disciplic succession, but not in relationship to their function as demigods. So in that way, we can approach them as devotees or Vaishnavas. Any questions at this point? Anyone?
So far, no one is asking, Maharaj.
All right, we'll go to the next item in regards to evidence regarding devotional principles. This is number 18, not giving pain to any living entity. So I'm reading. This is the statement of Mahabharata. A person who does not disturb or cause painful action in the mind of any living entity, who treats everyone just like a loving father does his children, whose heart is so pure, certainly very soon becomes favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just excuse me, I'll drink a little water and then I'll continue. Hare Krishna. So I'm reading on. In so-called civilized society, there is sometimes agitation against cruelty to animals. But at the same time, regular slaughterhouses are always maintained. A Vaishnav is not like that. A Vaishnav can never support animal slaughter or even give pain to any living entity. So that's the sort of end of this particular chapter 7. Still, if you like, I can take some comments or questions if you want now before I move on to chapter 8. Anyone?
So far, no one is asking, Maharaj.
Okay. So we're moving on to chapter 8. So you can put that on the screen. And this is item number 19. The whole chapter is only item number 19. Offenses to be avoided. So in other words, the word offenses to be avoided, which is just one item of the 64 items, is elaborately described in chapter 8, which is number 19, the whole chapter. Let me read and there's some beginning ones, and then we can explain the chapter so that I don't have to read the entire chapter. In the supplementary Vedic literature, so while I'm reading, I'll say something, but don't have to take it off the screen. So the word that's important here is called supplementary. It's not the main. It's offenses, but it's not like the main thing. See? So in the supplementary Vedic literature, there is the following list of 32 offenses in the matter of serving the Lord. So there's number 1. One should not enter the temple of the deity in a car or palanquin or with shoes on the feet. Are you with me so far? Okay, so now put me back onto the screen. I'm not going through all 32 for now, but I'll tell you what this actually means in principle. You will find that supplementary means like subsidiary rules in which if you break it, it's not considered like an offense. Okay? So when you look in the book on your own later on, you will find that this is in the matter of doing a deity worship or serving the Lord. And the word that is called for these 32 offenses is called seva aparad. That means offenses while engaging in service to the Lord. Okay, so far in particular reference to deity worship. So you'll find every one of these 32, which makes up number 19 of the 64 items of devotional service. You'll find these words are used: one should, one should, one should, one should, one should. In other words, it is not like being offensive, you know. It's not like, you're voluntarily offending, or you like sort of want to be offensive in one of these rules. So the word that we will call in relation to these 32 sort of seva apparats, offenses committed doing some service, is like you may make a mistake, which is not a big thing. You may make some mistake. See? Like number one should not enter the temple of the deity in a car or palanquin or with shoes on the feet. With shoes on the feet. So I'll give you one example. And this I actually witnessed. So, one of our big ISKCON temples in India, I was there, and it was deity darshan. So one sannyasi, I was brahmachari then. So one sannyasi, he likes deity darshan. He loves it. He's always there on time before the curtains open, and he looks forward to deity darshan. For somehow this day it happened, I was already in the temple taking darshan. Somehow this day it happened that he was like running for deity darshan from his room. And while running for the deity darshan, that he was so eager to be there before the curtains opened, but he didn't make it. The curtains were already open. And while running, he forgot to take off his shoes. He ran into the temple room with his shoes, standing in front of the deity, because people make way for a sannyasi, and he's taking darshan with his shoes. See? So I happened to be there, and he's my friend. So I went quietly to him and I tapped him on the back, tapped him on the back. See? And I said, Maharaj, shoes. But he was so absorbed in the darshan, then I said, Maharaj, again, shoes. The second time he registered, oh, shoes, okay. So he didn't run out to take out his shoes. In front of everyone, he called another brahmachari, hey, come here, take my shoes and put it where the chappals are, where the shoes are, and the rack outside. And he continued taking his darshan. So in other words, he was in the ecstasy of seeing the Lord. And he like broke this rule, but it's not like, he did it on purpose. He didn't really do it on purpose. It's just quite an amazing thing. Then later on after prasadam, some devotees are talking to me, how can the Maharaj do this? Run in the shoe. I said, look, hold on. So I took out this nectar of devotion and I showed them, number one, that one should, not one must. So it's a kind of mistake. So it's a mistake. It's not like, it's that kind of aparad. So that's coming in the form of like, you could say, seva aparad. That's how we see it. All right, so those are the first 32, like that. Then on the next page, 70, which you don't have to put on the screen, and then there's further, you could say, 29 offenses, like mistakes about deity worship. you know, but like deity worship, one should be careful to always follow them, but sometimes inadvertently not to due to one's own fault, but some forgetfulness or something else that may happen. But it's not really like, you know, you have to kick them out of the deity department. You know, like you committed an aparad, and how can you be so like that? So one has to be careful. One has to be careful that based on some little mistake or unknowingly to the person out of some like distressful condition coming from somewhere else, they forgot to do something in the DD department because they're thinking of something else. So one should be careful how to deal with devotees and don't make it Vaishnava aparad by offending them by taking them away from the service or something. Of course, if one grossly neglects, that's a little different in that sense. Okay, so one time, just to say something here, is that one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada that if one commits offenses in devotional service, and then you overcome those reactions of those offenses just by chanting the holy name, which is actually a fact. See? And then he asked Srila Prabhupada that if we commit offenses while chanting the holy names, then there's no shelter. So then the devotee expressed to Srila Prabhupada, so what can we do if we commit offenses against the holy name, which is also coming at the end of this chapter? And Srila Prabhupada looked at him like firmly and said, you are asking this question because you want to offend. So in other words, rather to just know not to offend and rather asking a question, what will happen if I offend? That is most important. So from Seva Aparad, we may come towards the end of this chapter, which is a very short chapter, actually. It's only like 4 pages. Seva Aparad, and we'll come to Nama Aparad. So of these two, Nama Aparad is more serious than Seva Aparad. So all these rules that we have looked at now, I mean, I haven't read it, but you should look at it on your own. If one commits offenses, in practical devotional service, like seva, including in deity worship, and if one takes shelter of the holy name, then one will automatically become free from the effects of seva aparad, or offenses in practical devotional service. But if one feels that, one thinks that I can commit offenses in devotional service, and by taking shelter of the holy name become free from the effects, of the offenses, then that becomes nama aparad. In other words, you can't just use the holy name all the time to go on committing offenses and try to nullify the effects of these offenses in seva aparad, or devotional service and practice. So we don't actually become free from the effects or reactions if we deliberately commit offenses with the idea of taking shelter of the holy name to nullify the offenses. But actually that won't happen because the holy name will not be potent in your chanting of the holy name because of your desire to do so. So therefore the effect will not become vanquished of the offenses in seva aparad, but it will probably be increased or magnified. So therefore, but if somebody unintentionally or accidentally may commit some mistake, like we said, in the course of a practical devotional service or seva, then the effect of the offense will be destroyed by just chanting the holy name. So it's like accidentally or unintentionally or unknowingly. That's the way the holy name will help. All right. I'm going to discuss something now, then I'll take questions. We're going to page 71. It's a very nice discussion about Ganapati. Ganesh. What they say? Vinayagar. South Indians say Vinayagar, Krishna Prema.
Yes, Maharaj, Vinayagar.
Yes, Vinayagar. Yes. So we're coming to that now. It's on the screen. It's on page 71 in the middle of the page. Just excuse me for a moment. Hare Krishna. There's a season change in Mauritius from summer to winter, so slightly sometimes it happens for everyone. So I'm reading. Other rules are that one should not offer foodstuff which is cooked by a non-Vaishnava. One should not worship the deity before a non-devotee. And one should not engage himself in the worship of the Lord while seeing a non-devotee. But of course, for us, for the sake of preaching, we do deity worship in public. As breaking a lesser rule for a higher rule of bringing people to be attracted to Krishna. So now I'm continuing to read. Wow, one should begin the worship of the demigod, Ganapati, who drives away all impediments in the execution of devotional service. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Ganapati worships the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadev, and in that way has become auspicious for the devotees in clearing out all impediments. Therefore, all devotees should worship Ganapati. Ki Jai. Can you see there in the beginning, one should begin the worship. The word should is used. And at the end, should worship Ganapati. So not must. Just like all the other rules, one should not, or one should. So this is should. Maybe, but not must. See? So it's very, very important to understand this principle. So one particular devotee was very attracted in reading this. And he approached Srila Prabhupada because, Guru Padashraya, that's the number one rule, which is the most important in the 64 items, one of the most important rules, is that one should approach a bona fide spiritual master to do anything in devotional service. See? So this devotee thought, I will approach Srila Prabhupada and read from this nectar of devotion and see what he says, because I'm inclined to worship Ganapati. So now, he approached Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, can I keep a deity of Ganapati and worship him? See? So Srila Prabhupada asked why. See? And then he quoted Nectar of Devotion. And then Srila Prabhupada reminded him, yes, the word is one should, but not must. But the nice thing you are doing is that you are approaching me, because that's the first one. You cannot deny the first rule. One should approach the bona fide spiritual master and take instructions from him and serve him. But accept initiation, take instructions and serve. So Prabhupada said, you're doing the right thing by approaching me. The devotee kind of insisted to Srila Prabhupada. See? And this is in the early days of ISKCON. Then Srila Prabhupada said, okay, you can, but you must give me 1 lakh of rupees every day. So then the devotee felt, oh, I can't do that. Now, why is that? Because generally people worship Ganapati to get wealth, to become rich and materially wealthy. And Ganapati is definitely generally worshipped by wealthy materialists, still, even up to today. So we have really no instruction from Srila Prabhupada to worship the deity or to keep a deity of Ganapati. We really have no instruction for that. Another disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you worship, how do we respect Ganapati, or how do we worship Ganapati? In other words, in relation to this nectar of devotion. And then Srila Prabhupada said, with the mantra, Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. In other words, worshipping the Guru is actually worshipping all the demigods. That the spiritual master takes you out from the darkness into the light, through the transcendental knowledge. Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Now, how is this so in relation to Ganapati? The Prabhupada says that's the mantra, how we worship Ganapati. Om Jnana Timirandasya. Now, I have been to Badrinath in the Himalayas. And there you can even visit, up to today, the cave in which Srila Vyasadeva, who was a literary incarnation of Krishna, recited or sung the scriptures. And very, very nearby to Vyasadev's cave is another cave. It belongs to Ganapati or Ganesh or Vinayaka. And who is that person? And you'll see even paintings of this Ganapati, that he is the scribe. He's writing down the scriptures as it is recited or sung by Vyasadeva. See? So if we follow the scriptures that is scribed by Ganapati, and spoken by Vyasadeva, right, like that, and we become absorbed and follow the scriptures, then it is non-different from worshipping Ganapati, who's also following the scriptures and the scribe of the scriptures. You can actually visit these two caves of Ganapati and Vyasadeva, in the hills of Badrinath today. Another time, Srila Prabhupada said, in relation to this Ganapati discussion, but later on he said that if you simply follow my instructions, with one kick of my boot, I can kick out all of your stumbling blocks and obstacles. Because people generally worship Ganapati to remove the obstacles on the path of pure devotional service. But Prabhupada said, I can do that. He was representing Ganapati and Vyasadeva in that. So finally, we see that in this text that I read, in this portion of this chapter, it is very clear that that Ganapati is actually one of the greatest devotees of Lord Nrsimhadev. And therefore, Ganapati gets potency to remove obstacles from actually, serving, or from his devotional service to Lord Nrsimhadev. He gets that potency. For us in ISKCON, which I will also discuss on Nrsimhadev Chaturdasi on Wednesday next, that if we worship Lord Nrsimhadev, we should ask or request Lord Nrsimhadev to remove obstacles in our devotional service, whom Ganapati worships. He worships Lord Nrsimhadev. So therefore, in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we generally accept the goal. In other words, we generally accept as our goal Radha Krishna. We don't accept as our goal either Ganapati, or for that matter, the person that he worships. We don't accept the goal of Lord Nrsimhadev to worship. But Srila Prabhupada has introduced that we worship Lord Nrsimhadev to remove obstacles, not people, but obstacles in the path of devotional service, as well as we worship Lord Nishingadev. When the obstacles are cleared on our path, then we can reach the goal of our devotional service for Radha Krishna Bhakti, to Radha and Krishna. So this is also given in the prayers of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually prays the Lord Nishingadev to remove the anathas from his heart. Otherwise, he's praying on our behalf, actually, although he may feel it personally. And he feels that, please make my desire, Lord Nishingadev, to serve Radha and Krishna stronger and stronger and stronger. So that is the best mode for the worship of Lord Nishingadev, given by the previous acharyas. And we get the full result of approaching Lord Nishingadev directly, which is as good as getting the same result, or if not more, if we approach Ganapati to remove our obstacles in devotional service. Now, do you have any questions? Anyone? Questions?
No, Maharaj. So far, no one is asking any questions.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, please come onto the screen.
Okay. Krishna?
Your name is?
Surya
Parvana.
Prakash. Yeah.
Surya Prakash. Tell me your question.
According to one of the verses, you have got Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Mahesh, Guru Parampara. Yes, Mahesh,
Yes.
Shri Guru Ve Namo.
Wait, hold on a second. Where did you hear that?
Okay. One of the verses that you have. I
No, but
know.
we don't chant that verse. I don't know where you got it from.
Actually, we recited it before joining ISKCON. I used to recite this. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru.
Yes, but that's not within ISKCON.
Yeah.
See, but what is your question?
Is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh? Can we give them? Can we refer to them as Guru?
Yes, you can, because Lord Brahma is the head of our disciplic succession. He is the first acharya in our disciplic succession. And Lord Shiva has his own disciplic succession called the Rudra Sampradaya. We can. However, do you live with Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva? Do you live with them?
No.
Who do you live with?
With Krishna as servant.
Okay, even to live with Krishna is not that easy. Who's in your immediate community that you live with?
Okay. Vaishnav.
Yes. So amongst the Vaishnavas, there may be Shiksha gurus. In other words, more devotees amongst the Vaishnavas are prominent in your spiritual development. That is called Shiksha gurus. Devotees will help you spiritually. So they represent, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. They represent. So you should follow the advice and wisdom and experience and instructions of your local gurus. That will please all the demigods, but that will please the Vaishnavas, even like Lord Shiva and like Lord Brahma, and please the Supreme Lord Vishnu or Krishna also. So what you have practiced before coming to ISKCON, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Maheshwar, that mantra you said?
Yeah.
So they are gurus. At the same time, on a practical level, how eligible are we to actually approach them directly? That is the point. So
Mhm.
therefore, by you chanting that mantra before coming to ISKCON, that mantra has helped you. You know, Lord Shiva, Maheshwar, Lord Brahma, and Vishnu has helped you to come to ISKCON, and then through the local, initiating and instructing spiritual masters, like
Mhm.
gurus,
Mhm.
Diksha and Shiksha gurus, like that, you are actually getting the mercy of chanting that mantra before you come here.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you should know that, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Maheshwara, we should know that although they're in the category of giving us, knowledge, or not just saying the mantra to come to be in ISKCON and so forth, they are not on an equal level. They are not on an equal level. Lord Brahma is Jiva Tattva, Lord Shiva is Shakti Tattva, and Vishnu or Krishna is Vishnu Tattva. So Vishnu Tattva is supreme. In between is Shakti or Shiva Tattva, and then sandwiching Shiva Shakti Tattva on the other side is Jiva Tattva represented by Brahma. So they may be gurus in that sense, but they are not equal at the same time. See? But like I said earlier on today, that we respect and probably even worship Lord Brahma, just as we worship the disciplic succession as our guru. And if you're in the Rudra Sampradaya, people worship Lord Shiva as guru, not the Supreme Lord. That's part of Vaishnava, life or devotee life. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Other questions anyone has? Anyone has other questions?
I think no, Maharaj.
Okay. So I'll move along, but I may not complete the chapter. We'll see, right? Okay. Um, um, you know, uh, how do I put this now? Um, most of the times, if you read all these, you could say items of offenses to be avoided, especially in seva, aparaba, deity worship. Most of the times we may neglect sometimes to perform some lesser item, but performing something higher than that lesser item. That is not considered an offense. Especially the 5 most potent items which will be discussed at the end, which is the last 5 of the 64, is that we serve the deity with great devotion, we recite Srimad Bhagavatam amongst devotees, and we associate with advanced devotees, and we chant the holy names of the Lord, and we live in Mathura, Vrindavan, or in the holy place, which are the 5 most potent items. So it may be sometimes that in order to follow these main items, one may neglect or even ignore to perform something which is of lesser than this. Now, that is not considered an aparad in seva aparad or an offense. An offense only comes when one, you could say, violates, or one goes against some negative or prohibition of the scriptures. See? But if a devotee is more sort of like fully engaged in one or more of these 5 most potent items which I just mentioned, then one may not have time actually, to follow and engage in some of the lesser items in devotional service. See, so that is very, very, very important. Like, for example, we'll be coming to, some lesser items, prior to this. We said that like, I don't have to go to the page, like in chapter 6, in page 54, it says that worshipping sacred trees like the banyan tree, which we just read and moved on. See, which was actually item number 10. Right now we're item number 19. Okay? And in another page in relation to item number 10, that it says one should also, you could say, worship the Amalaki tree. Serve and worship sacred trees like banyan tree and Amalaki tree. See? Now we may not have time to do that. I mean, who goes around seeing a banyan tree and then offering some puja and so forth? That's not like considered an offense if you don't offer. You may offer respect to a banyan tree and walk past, but to actually worship the banyan tree, we may not have that kind of time or energy, except doing the most important items and the most potent items which I just mentioned. So that's very important to remember. Very important to remember. Now, on page 70, you don't have to go to the page. I'll just read it for you. On page 70, which is still in this thing, it says that an item that reads that one should not enter the temple wearing garments of red or blue color. It doesn't say one must not enter the temple wearing garments of red or blue color. It says one should not. Okay? Now we know that, ladies, Matajis, girls, and Prabhus also, boys, they may wear red color, clothes or sari, even blue color, and come right in front of the deity. They're entering the temple room. Now, do you get like, other devotees or the management saying, hey, Haribol, according to Nectar of Devotion, you're not supposed to wear red or blue color garments here. Get up. And we don't do that. We don't do that. See? So one disciple read this and he asked Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada just discounted and says, don't worry, didn't give it much importance. And there's another one that's very, very important, which I'm about to discuss. We should go to that in that page. It's on page 69. It's in the beginning of the chapter. And if you look at item number 21, it's more at the bottom of the page. One should not eulogize or praise anyone else before the deity. See? It says, praise anyone else before the deity. Put me back on the screen. So, what does this mean? It doesn't say one should not praise anyone before the deity. It says one should not praise anyone else before the deity. So the word else is important. If you change it to one should not praise anyone before the deity, that will include devotees. See? But if you say one should not praise anyone else before the deity, then that does not include devotees, because anyone else means that person who is not in relationship to the deity. That is important. So one time, one devotee was appreciating another devotee to Srila Prabhupada in front of Srila Prabhupada's deities, before they were installed in Mumbai, in Bombay. And then the devotee immediately checked himself and he said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I'm sorry. I was glorifying the devotee in front of the deity, but according to Nectar of Devotion, you have written that we should not do so. Then Srila Prabhupada replied, no, Krishna is already glorified, but it takes more pleasure when his devotees are glorified, even in front of Krishna. So we should know how to follow these rules. So therefore, this means that one should not forget the deity. But if one remembers the deity and glorifies the devotee to increase the pleasure of the deity, then that is not offensive. See? And similarly, we see Srila Prabhupada, he accepts Guru Puja in front of the deities. And one disciple asked him about this. And Srila Prabhupada replied, our goal is to develop love for Krishna. And that is more important than the little rules and regulations. In other words, Srila Prabhupada felt that if Guru Puja would help us to develop love for Krishna more than following the rule, then not to worship someone in the temple, and that means some principles are more important and some rules are less important. So therefore the Acharya or the advanced devotee or the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru can guide us to what the right perspective is and how to follow and how not to follow. And Srila Prabhupada himself quoted that verse, Aradhananam Sadvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param Tasmat Parataram Devi Taniyanam Samachanam. So that indicates that that Lord Shiva is telling to Parvati that of all types of worship, the worship of Krishna or Vishnu is the highest. Tasmat Parat Bhat Tasmat Parataram Devi, my dear Devi, Taniyanam Samachanam. Tasmat Pari, Vishnu, higher than the worship of Vishnu or Krishna, is to worship and serve the paraphernalia, Tadiya, and the devotees of the Lord. So we should know how to follow these, like lesser rules in the proper perspective, supporting the principal rules and the most important ones in Krishna consciousness. Now, on the same page, there's page 69, item number 7. Let's show it to them. One should not circumambulate in front of Sri Krishna. Item number 7. One should not circumambulate in front of Sri Krishna. So that's one should, not must. One should. Okay. So put me back onto the screen. Yeah. So so His Holiness Brhat Swami, he also heard this, that we shouldn't circumambulate the deity. When the deity doors are closed, sometimes the deities are taking rest after Rajbhog offering and Arti around about 1 o'clock or so, like that. And the deity's doors are closed. Okay. So His Holiness Brhat Swami asked Srila Prabhupada about this, that we shouldn't circumambulate the deity when the doors are closed. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, we shouldn't. And His Holiness Brhat Swami asked, why? So Srila Prabhupada said, because when the devotee circumambulates the deity wants to reciprocate with the devotee. But when the doors are closed, the deity can't reciprocate. And therefore, Krishna feels frustrated. The Prabhupada gave that answer from Krishna's perspective. However, from our perspective, we should also honor Krishna. At that time, he ate a little bit too much during Rajbhog offering. And he wants to take a little bit rest, just like sometimes when we have a big feast, we want to go, LSD, left side down. We want to go and take some rest. So Krishna is the person also. He had so much in the Rajbhog offering that he says, look, if you want me to reciprocate with you now, it's like now is not the time. I am going to go into some yoga nidra, spiritual slumber. But Srila Prabhupada gave this amazing answer that if you go around the deity when the doors are closed, then the deity will say, "Oh, he's going around, but somebody closed me in. Somebody closed me in. I can't go out. The Pujari will get angry if I leave. I'm supposed to be taking rest." So Krishna gets frustrated like that. So better to leave Krishna in his Leela of Yoga Nidra and don't circumambulate the deities when the doors are closed. Prabhupada sort of suggests. But if somebody playfully goes around or something, a child runs around, you can't tell the child, don't do this. That's a little different. So we have to be careful and sensitive about these things. All right, we have a few minutes, about 5 minutes or so. If you have any questions, we can take them now.
Rasika Chandra Prabhu has a question. Prabhu, you can please come to the screen.
Rasika Chandra, Prabhu Ki Jai. Where are you? Come onto the screen. Yes, tell me.
Regarding deity worship, like if someone in our Gotra means like my family members and my father's cousins, everyone. If someone
Can you speak slowly and a little loudly because your words are getting chewed. I have to hear it more clearly. Sorry, yeah? Look up. Yeah, now you speak into the microphone, but can you speak slowly and clearly?
Yes, deity worship, like if someone in our Gotra, like our family lineage, like my father's family members, a bit not so far away, but they are same Gotra, and someone dies, and we as a devotee we have to go to the temple to do our deity worship, like cooking or whatever we do over there for deity. Then what is a restraint in time that after such and such time we can go, or during such and such time we can't go? Like I want to know how should we observe?
You're saying it's like a contamination period?
Yeah, like some of the same family needs, someone has left his body.
I understand, but you are saying that the relatives of the family may be in a contamination period because the person passed away, not to go and do deity worship in the local temple. That's what you are saying?
Yes.
Yes. So what is your question on that?
Yes, because if I have to go to the temple for deity worship, or if I have a deity in my house, should I observe the restrictions, or I can go on with my deity worship, or if I can go to the temple for the deity worship?
Okay. Now, I had mentioned previously that, when I was like 2 years in the movement, this is way back, 35 years ago, 37 years I joined. So my father passed away. Now I'm staying in the temple, okay? And I go to Mangalati. And at that time, sometimes I used to worship the Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada's deity and Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur's deity on the altar. I used to do the morning puja before the deity greetings on the altar, because it's part of the altar. So I go to my father's funeral, and where do I stay? I stay in the temple, right? So I go to the temple ashram and I stay. And then the next day morning, I have to go and do my service because I can't go anywhere else. You with me? See, that's one point from my perspective. But you were saying that you don't stay in the temple. You are a grihastha in the congregation and you stay near the temple. So you are saying if somebody passes away, if somebody passes away in the family, should you come and do deity worship or not? That's your question, right?
Also, and if I have a deity in my house,
and your deity in your house. Now let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. If your child, if your son, is being fed every day, You understand? Now you tell your son, look, grandpa has passed away, I can't feed you anymore. And you have two naughty boys in your home, God Nitai, they're your sons. So what is your relationship with your deity? Is he part of the family? Is he head of the family or what? See? So this karma kanda rules we don't have to follow in our own home. See? We don't have to follow in our own home. That's one point. Number two is your question is very, very important for everyone actually. Very, very important. Number two is that if you have deities at home or if you don't, and your service is to go to the local temple to worship Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, big deities in a ISKCON temple. See? So for you not to go is from your side. It's not from the deity or Krishna Balaram's side. Because from your side, you may be still grieving. You may be still in some remorseful state. That means, you're not in the proper frame of mind or consciousness, because you are now missing some beloved member of the family, even in devotee families. See? So the rule is not that you should not go worship the deity. It is just that maybe the head pujari or you yourself may say, look, I'm not in a proper frame of mind now. My grandfather, my father has passed away. Can you give me a few days, to please, in my grieving period, and I won't be coming to do my service at the temple. That Krishna Balaram understands. Okay? But the Krishna and Balaram, as well as the head pujari, they're not going to tell you don't come and worship the deity. Krishna Balaram says, no, don't come to me near. Don't come near. You're dirty. They don't say that. In fact, it's all the more reason for you to come and see them. Even if you don't do deity worship, come and take their darshan and pray to them, please, let this grieving period go over very, very quickly. Take their darshan and come back to your service again. So we should know the perspective of how to follow, from whose perspective, in that sense. So keeping away from devotees and keeping away from the Lord, the deities, where does it say in the scripture in Vaishnav culture that you should do that? Where does it say that? In fact, we should do it even more at that time so we can get over our grieving period. But in our grieving period, if we do deity worship in the deity area, and because of our grieving period, we may sort of drop the Archaman cup spoon, thinking of my grandfather who left or my father who left a few days ago or yesterday. That is why you, from your side, depending on your consciousness of maturity of consciousness in relation to your situation of missing a loved one or a past family member, from your side, you make that decision. That is for devotees. Wonderful question. Amazing for all devotees concerned also. So remember, there's nothing in the scriptures, in the Bhakti Shastri or Bhakti scriptures, that tells us don't go to the association of devotees or don't go and see the deity. There's nothing like that. In fact, for the devotee, death can come at any moment. Devotee knows that. So if your father passed away yesterday and you say today you're not going to temple, but what if you're passing away? Better come to temple quickly. And see the deities, take some Mahaprasad and so forth. Wonderful question. Thank you very much, Rasika Chandra Prabhu. It's a very practical question. All right, I look forward to all of your Sangha again tomorrow. We are going pretty well and quite smoothly with these remaining chapters, which will go a little bit more swifter than the beginning chapters, because it's covering a lot of these rules and moving on to the more important rules and more discussion for that. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vranda ki
Jai.
Yeah.
Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada
Jai.
ki jai. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai.
Yeah.
Premanande.
Hari Bol. Thank
Hari
you so much,
Bol.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.